Captain James stood on the bridge of humanity's furthest exploration vessel, the Pioneer. The ship floated at the very edge of human-mapped space, where star charts ended and the unknown began. For 300 years, humans had spread across their corner of the galaxy, colonizing worlds and building an empire that spanned thousands of light years. Yet beyond this boundary, nothing but silence greeted them. The crew had detected something strange, a massive void where stars should exist. Not a black hole, but an absence of everything. No radiation, no light, no signals, just emptiness stretching for parsecs. Lieutenant Maria, the ship's science officer, ran scan after scan, her face growing more puzzled with each result. "Captain, the void isn't natural," she reported. "The edges show signs of artificial manipulation. Something created this dead zone." James felt a chill run through him. Humanity had always wondered why the galaxy seemed so quiet, why no alien civilizations had made contact despite the billions of stars. The old Earth scientists called it the Fermi paradox, but humans had pushed past that mystery, focusing on their own expansion instead. The Pioneer moved closer to the void's edge. Suddenly, their instruments detected a structure massive, ancient, and clearly artificial. It was a wall of sorts, made from technology that defied understanding. The wall stretched infinitely in all directions, marking a clear boundary. "There's writing," Maria whispered, zooming in on symbols etched into the structure. The ship's AI worked frantically to decode them, cross-referencing with every language pattern in human databases. After long minutes, words appeared on this screen in plain English, translated from the alien script. "Quarantine Zone Species 7834. Contamination risk extreme. Do not breach." The bridge fell silent. Humanity wasn't alone, but they were imprisoned. Someone or something had locked them inside this region of space, like a disease to be contained. James stared at the message, his mind racing. Who had built this? Why were humans considered contaminated? Before anyone could speak, more text appeared, older and partially damaged. Aggressive expansion detected. Technological advancement unprecedented. Warfare capability exceeds parameters. Containment necessary for galactic stability. The truth hit them like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't found aliens because the aliens had found them first and decided they were too dangerous to let loose in the galaxy. The silence wasn't empty. It was enforced. But James smiled grimly. Humans had a long history of breaking through walls that others built to contain them. They had conquered Earth, tamed their solar system, and spread across the stars. A prison, no matter how vast, was just another challenge to overcome. "Maria, send everything back to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell them we found our answer to the Fermi paradox. We're not alone, we're quarantined." He turned to his navigation officer, Tom. "Plot a course along the wall. Let's see how far this prison extends." As the Pioneer began its journey along the impossible barrier, James couldn't shake a feeling of pride mixed with determination. If the galaxy feared humanity enough to lock them away, then perhaps humans were more special than they ever imagined. The builders of this wall had made one critical error. They had revealed themselves. Now humanity knew the truth. They weren't exploring an empty galaxy. They were trapped in a cage. And there was nothing humans did better than breaking free from cages. The real question wasn't whether they would escape, but what would happen to the galaxy when they did. The stars beyond the wall waited in enforced silence. But that silence wouldn't last forever. Humanity had found its next great challenge, and Captain James knew his species well enough to predict the outcome. The walls would fall, the silence would break, and the galaxy would learn why someone had tried so hard to keep humanity contained that the journey along the barrier would take months. But already, James was thinking about weak points, studying the technology, planning humanity's next move. The quarantine had worked for however long it had stood, but it had just made its first contact with the one species that refused to accept limitations. The galaxy had stayed silent to keep humanity in check. Soon, it would learn the cost of that. Silence. Asterisk back on Earth. The Global Defense Council received Captain James's transmission with a mixture of shock and fierce determination. Admiral Robert, Earth's military commander, read the report 3 times before calling an emergency session. The council chamber filled with humanity's brightest minds, scientists, generals, philosophers, and engineers. "So we're prisoners," Admiral Robert began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the revelation. "Some advanced civilization decided we're too dangerous for the galaxy and built a cage around us." Dr. Lisa, head of the science division, pulled up the data from the Pioneer. "The technology is beyond anything we've seen. The wall appears to be made of programmable matter, capable of self-repair and adaptation. Breaking through by force would be ... difficult. Difficult, but not impossible," General Mark interjected. He was old-school military, the kind who had fought in the Mars Rebellion and won against impossible odds. "Every wall has a weakness. Every prison has a key." The council discussed for hours. Some wanted to attempt communication with their captors. Others pushed for immediate military action. But it was young Professor Alex who proposed the most ambitious plan. "What if we don't break the wall?" he suggested. "What if we hack it instead?" The room turned to him. Alex continued. "The wall responds to us, translates for us. That means it's scanning us, analyzing us. It's connected to some kind of network. If we can access that network, we might be able to understand who built this and why." Admiral Robert nodded slowly. "And understanding our enemy is the first step to defeating them." The plan that emerged was typically human, bold, risky, and multifaceted. They would send more ships to study different sections of the wall. Earth's entire industrial complex would shift to develop new technologies based on what they learned. And most importantly, they would prepare for war. Because if there was one thing human history had taught them, it was that freedom always came at a price. Asterisk, the builders respond 6 months past. Humanity had established 12 research stations along the quarantine wall, each studying different aspects of the barrier. The wall stretched for tens of thousands of light years, encompassing not just human space, but a volume large enough to hold a small galaxy. The scale of the construction was mind-boggling. Captain James and the Pioneer had made a discovery that changed everything. They found a section of the wall that was damaged ancient battle scars from some long-ago conflict. Through the gaps, their sensors detected something that made James's blood run cold. More walls, layer after layer of them, extending outward like a cosmic onion. Humanity wasn't the only quarantine species. "My God," Maria breathed, looking at the sensor data. "There are hundreds of these zones, maybe thousands." Before James could respond, the wall began to change. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming new words. Species 7834. Abnormal activity detected. Initiating contact protocol. The bridge lights dimmed, and a hologram materialized in the center of the room. The figure was tall, impossibly thin, with features that seemed to shift and change as if unable to settle on a single form. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Humans," it said, the word carrying weight and wariness. "You have discovered your boundaries faster than predicted. Most species take millennia. You have done it in centuries." James stepped forward, representing his entire species in this. "First contact. Who are you? Why have you imprisoned us?" "We are the Watchers," the being replied. "We do not imprison. We protect the galaxy from you, and you from yourselves. That's not your choice to make, James said firmly. The Watchers. Form flickered, almost like a laugh. You think yourselves unique in your defiance. You are species 7,834 out of 9,000 current containments. Each believes they are special. Each thinks they deserve freedom. Then why contain us at all? Maria asked. Because you are weapons, the Watcher said simply. Every species that develops as you have rapid expansion, aggressive technology advancement, remarkable adaptability, becomes a threat to galactic stability. Wars between such species have destroyed entire sectors. Billions of worlds turned to ash. We learned to identify and contain such species early. James felt anger rising in his chest. So you play God? Decide who gets to explore the stars and who doesn't. We maintain peace, the Watcher corrected. The galaxy thrives because dangerous species are contained. You call it imprisonment. The trillion peaceful civilizations beyond your walls call it salvation. The conversation with the Watcher was broadcast to all human worlds. The reaction was exactly what James had expected: outrage, determination, and an immediate mobilization of resources that only humans could achieve when united against a common enemy. But it was Professor Alex who noticed something crucial in the Watcher's words. He called an emergency meeting with Admiral Robert and the Council. They're not all powerful, Alex explained, projecting data on the screen. The Watcher mentioned wars between species like us. That means some have escaped before. And if the Watchers were truly supreme, there wouldn't have been wars. They would have prevented them entirely. Dr. Lisa added her analysis. The damaged section Captain James found those battle scars. Someone fought the Watchers and damaged their wall. They're not invincible. General Mark leaned forward. So we can beat them. Maybe, Alex said. But I think there's a better way. The Watcher said there are 9,000 contained species currently. What if we're not meant to fight alone? The plan that formed was audacious, even by human standards. If the Watchers had created thousands of prisons, then they had also created thousands of potential allies. Humanity would not just break their own cage, they would break them all. The technical challenge was immense. They needed to find a way to communicate through the walls, to reach other contained species. It took 8 months of non-stop work, but human ingenuity prevailed. Using quantum entanglement and technologies reverse-engineered from studying the wall itself, they created a communication system that could penetrate the barriers. The first message was simple, broadcast in mathematical patterns that any advanced civilization could understand. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. We are humans, species 7,834, and we choose freedom. Join us. The response was overwhelming. Within days, hundreds of species replied. Each had their own story, their own cage, their own anger at being contained. The Varak, warriors who had been imprisoned for 3,000 years. The Minds, artificial intelligences that had achieved consciousness only to be immediately quarantined. The Builders, who had created wonders the Watchers feared. Captain James stood on his bridge, now the unofficial coordinator of the largest alliance in galactic history. An alliance of the imprisoned, the dangerous, the unwanted. They shared technologies, strategies, and most importantly, hope. The Watchers made a mistake. James told the assembled species through the quantum network. They put all their most dangerous enemies in cages. Yes, but cages next to each other. They created the perfect conditions for us to unite. The silent galaxy speaks the day of breaking, as history would call it, began with a whisper and ended with a roar that shook the galaxy. It started when humanity and their allies implemented their synchronized plan. Each species had been working on their section of their prison wall, not trying to break through with force, but understanding its code, its nature. The walls were connected, part of a vast network the Watchers used to maintain their control. And networks, as humans had learned centuries ago, could be hacked at the designated moment. 9,000 species acted as one. They didn't destroy the walls, they reprogrammed them. The barriers that had kept them in suddenly reversed, becoming shields that kept the Watchers out. In a single instant, the quarantine zones became fortresses. The Watchers' response was immediate. Ships appeared, technology, beyond imagination, bringing force to bear on the rebels. But they faced not one species breaking free, they faced thousands, each bringing their unique strengths to the fight. Humans coordinated, their gift for warfare and strategy binding the alliance together. The Varak brought devastating weapons. The mines provided computational power that predicted Watcher movements. The builders created defensive structures that even Watcher technology struggled to penetrate. But the true victory came not from warfare, but from a discovery made by Captain James and his crew. In the deepest code of the Wall's programming, they found something unexpected: regret. The Watchers hadn't always been jailers. They had once been explorers, dreamers, until a great war had nearly destroyed the galaxy. Their solution had been isolation, containment, control. James opened a channel to the lead Watcher vessel. "You became what you feared," he said. "In trying to prevent wars, you became tyrants. In trying to protect peace, you destroyed freedom." The response came after a long pause. "And what would you do differently, human? How would you prevent the strong from destroying the weak?" "We wouldn't," James replied, and he could feel the shock from the Watcher. "We would teach the weak to become strong. We would unite different species, not separate them. Your peace is the peace of a grave. We choose the chaos of life." The battle raged for days, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. The Watchers had grown complacent in their role as jailers. The contained species had spent their imprisonment growing stronger, angrier, more determined. And humans had given them something the Watchers never could hope, and unity. When the walls finally fell, when the barriers dissolved into cosmic dust, the galaxy held its breath. Trillion peaceful civilizations waited to see if the Watchers had been right, if releasing the contained species would bring apocalypse. Instead, something unexpected happened. The freed species, bound by their shared experience, formed the Free Systems Alliance. Humans, natural diplomats when not fighting for survival, helped establish treaties, trade routes, and defensive pacts. The dangerous species the Watchers had feared became protectors of the peaceful ones they had claimed to shield. Captain James stood on the bridge of the Pioneer, now flagship of the Free Systems fleet. The stars no longer ended at an artificial wall. The galaxy no longer stayed silent. Ships from 1,000 different species flew together, exploring, building, living. The Watchers retreated to their core systems. Their age of control ended. Some joined the Alliance, admitting their methods had been wrong. Others disappeared into the void, perhaps to find another galaxy to protect. Maria stood beside James, looking at the infinite stars now open to them. "What do you think happens now?" she asked. James smiled. Now we do what humans do best. We explore, we grow, we make friends and enemies. We live, and if we encounter other barriers, other Watchers, then we'll tear those down too," James replied. "That's the thing about humans, Maria. We don't just break our own chains, we break them for everyone. That's why they feared us, and that's why we won." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous species were exactly the ones you needed when freedom was at stake. The silence had been broken, replaced by the chaotic, beautiful noise of freedom. And at the heart of it all were human species 7,834, the ones. who refused to accept that any prison could hold them forever. The stars beckoned, infinite and welcoming. The galaxy was no longer silent. And humanity, along with their allies, answered its call with joy, determination, and the absolute certainty that no force in the universe could contain the spirit of those who chose freedom over safety. Beyond human space, the stars had no end, and the galaxy would never be silent again. Asterisk.